Okay, I believe that we're live. This is actually something that is annoying me a great deal. This twat, Nancy Pelosi. And, there's no other way for me to put it. But she tried to use one of the more philosophical turns of phrase, the spark of divinity, in order to discuss something that is pretty not, it has very little to do with that. Now, I'll play for you the clip first so you don't say that I misconstrued what she was saying or twisted her words. And we can then deliberate on what she really meant.
You brought up the subject of immigration again. It reminds me that, and as I was talking about the religious groups and how they're concerned about feeding the hungry and the Gospel of Matthew and the rest, 41 million people in our country are food insecure. We believe, some of us who are attracted to the political arena, to government and public service, that we're all God's children. There's a spark of divinity in every person on earth, and that we all have to recognize that as we respect the dignity and worth of every person, and as we recognize our responsibilities with that spark of divinity within us. And so when the President of the United States says about undocumented immigrants, these aren't people, these are animals, you have to wonder, does he not believe in the spark of divinity, the dignity and worth of every person? These are not people, these are animals. The President of the United States. Every day that you think you've seen it all, along comes another manifestation of why their policies are so inhumane and why we have to continue the debate, striving for bipartisanship with openness about what is at stake and what the choices are, and to be unifying in every way possible. Calling people animals is not a good thing. Thank
So
you. Bye-bye.
She concludes, she leaves the stage. I dislike the video. I thumbs downed it. The reason that I bring it up, and I call this Society and Theology, is that this really is a case of somebody twisting a concept that has nothing to do with racism and using it to basically make political hay. Now, Nancy Pelosi is technically, I think, a Catholic. And her maiden name, I think, was D'Alessandro. Her dad was the mayor of Baltimore. I'd like to know how many of the people shot in Baltimore. I think, what is it? I'll just open this up. Baltimore murders 2018. She doesn't live in Baltimore anymore, but yeah, last 100 homicides. That's let's see here. We're still in 2018. So starting on January, there's already been 100 people murdered in 2018 in the city of Baltimore, the city that her dad was mayor of. Do those people have the spark of divinity? I don't think she gives a fuck about their spark of divinity. And she would never mention the deaths of these people in Baltimore because it doesn't have any, there's nothing that you can gain from it. You can pretty much say, well, what are you going to do? The fact of the matter is Baltimore is a city with gun control. Of course, there was, let's state, obviously there's a huge tragedy in Texas. But look at the names of these people. Joanne Pinkney, Aaron Paul Mazie might be an Italian name, to be honest with you. So she should feel compassion to her fellow Italians. Here on May 5th, or May 1st, rather, Terrence Scott, D'Amico Baldwin. This has nothing to do with compassion. And the spark of godliness has nothing to do with whether somebody is of a race or not a race. The spark of godliness, if you call somebody an animal, technically you don't negate their spark of divinity. I've heard it called godliness or divinity, so we'll just stick with divinity. Animals also have a spark of divinity in them, according to my religion. I don't know about hers, but I've also, of course, my religion is Judaism. I've heard the same thing of Taoism and Chinese, Chinese philosophy, that there is the qi. What is the qi? Let's look for it. Qi. Whoops. Wrong one. Chicago Fire. So you can look up the qi in Chinese. It is the energy force. Is believed to be a vital force forming part of any living entity. That's in Chinese mystical belief systems. And then you would see the Ruach in Jewish culture, and it says the Pneuma in ancient Greek. So people have believed in this forever, but they don't. Of course, there's the Force in Star Wars. So that's the one that people think, oh, that was such a deep concept that George Lucas came up with. No, he ripped off one of these religions. So it's a number. It's her attributing something to a situation that has nothing to do with it. FYI, animals have a spark of divinity too. Plants have the spark of divinity too, according to most of these religions, by the way, if not all of them. So what does animals have to do with it? It doesn't mean that he does not believe in the spark of divinity. Okay? It has virtually nothing. I mean, obviously he had some contempt for them. So he was demeaning their actual, I don't know what you would call it, he was dehumanizing them. I guess you could say that. If you really wanted to make it an issue, he was dehumanizing people who brutally murder other people. So I wonder, really, I mean, how many times have you heard somebody be called a vulture? Look at this. Wall Street vultures. I mean, look how many hits there are. 352,000 results up here. Just type it in. Wall Street vultures. Is that dehumanizing? I mean, where's their spark of divinity? Does anybody care about their spark of divinity, the Wall Street vultures? Says right here, Counterpunch, Puerto Rican students take on Wall Street vultures. Nobody complained to Counterpunch about that. What's the other one? Capitalist hyenas. Hyena capitalism receives a swift kick from the Unilever giraffe. This is something, lies about Corbyn from the capitalist hyena press. So it's an analogy. Nobody complained about that. It's from Matt Brunig, who is, I'm not sure if he's that big, but, let's let that one go. I don't know if we should make this that long of a thing. I haven't listened to a couple of things. By the way, not going to be any streams tomorrow or tomorrow night, Sunday or Monday, until probably Monday evening. So just so you know, this is the last video until Monday evening. All right? So you're going to have to get your idiocy from somebody else. And Nancy Pelosi would be a brilliant source. So the spark of divinity in this is Chabad.org. It says individuality and the divine spark. In the core of my being is a spark of God. Then where is the me in me? In what way is one person unique from another? Is this idea that I have of myself as an individual lie? It says, why do you assume that the divine spark expresses itself identically in all people? Perhaps the opposite is true. It is that the divine spark that makes each of us unique and gives us purpose. The emotional and intellectual self we parade with through life is nothing more than an adaptation to our society, environment, upbringing, etc. We tend to think, quote, that's me, but it's not. When we look beyond that outer self, we find divine purpose, how we are meant to impact that society, environment, and personality. For each person, that is an entirely unique mission, and that is the godly spark within us. Yes, God is one, but to share an analogy from the Maharal of Prague, that's I think it was in the 15th century. That was He was the one that was, if you've ever heard the legend of the golem, that was the rabbi, the Maharal of Prague. From a simple point, an infinite number of lines may be drawn through infinite dimensions. So too, with that divine spark within, on the one hand, it is the same simple point within each one of us. Yet how that point expresses itself within you, another facet of the diamond, another ray of light, that is unique. Both aspects, the point and its expression, are equally divine. These two facets of the divine spark are expressed in every mitzvah. A mitzvah is a commandment in the Torah, by the way. So you're commanded, for example, honor thy father and mother. What's another commandment? There's a commandment, for example, to wear fringes on your garments. That's more unique to Judaism. But of course, there's the 10 Commandments, but there's beyond the 10 Commandments. There's other ones. There's the 7 Noahide commandments. Okay, those are the ones that are for each person in mankind, including not to commit adultery. So that covers everybody in the world. Everybody. That's our religious belief system. So not committing adultery, having a system of courts and justice, and 5 other rules that I can't remember. That's pretty. I think it's right here. 7 Noahide laws. It's embarrassing. So just so I give you the information and don't only look like an idiot. It says, do not profane God's oneness in any way. So you can't believe in polytheism. Sorry, Arjun. That's on you, buddy. I know he's going to watch this, so don't say I didn't say it to you. But, I mean, that's our belief system. I'm just going to tell you. Do not curse your creator. So no blaspheming. I think we could all probably be... I think we're all kind of vulnerable to that one. Do not murder. Do not eat a limb of a living animal. I think that kind of depends. It doesn't literally mean anything. So if you're eating lobster, for example, we don't eat lobster. Jews don't eat lobster. I don't eat any shellfish. But it doesn't include shellfish or things like that. It includes, steer or I think, poultry or something. Jeez. So it says, respect the life of all God's creatures. So that includes animals. As intelligent beings, we have a duty not to cause undue pain to other creatures. That does not mean veganism, by the way. Nothing to do with veganism. Do not steal. Harness and channel the human libido. So that is actually the adultery part, but it includes also incest, adultery, rape, and homosexual relations. I think the homosexual relations part is more specifically dudes can't be with each other. But most people would probably extend that to women as well. So sorry. Sorry, ladies, but that's one of them. And then establish courts of justice and ensure justice in the world. So I think we're all failing on the majority of these 7 Noahide laws, and it's pretty depressing, right? If you believe in them, I do, but I think we're all failing in it. One thing I did want to mention, and I didn't know the right context to mention it in, and there was another topic I didn't get to talk about this week, and I'm not going to get enough time to discuss it, was this issue of, conveniently, Nancy Pelosi, the moron, was able to give the perfect situation to bring this up. She's talking about spark of godliness. If you don't believe somebody is human, if you think they're an animal, spark of godliness, etc. She's not using it in the right context. Another thing that I heard this week, this disgusting thing I heard on the radio, and it's maybe it's only disgusting for me. Maybe it's because I have a different moral compass. I can watch violence against people, and I really, for example, horror movies. I have no problem watching a horror movie, Alien, some of these slasher movies, no problem. Violence against animals is kind of hard for me to watch, and it's some sort of, I don't think it's a moral issue. I think it's a neurological issue. There's certain things that bother you, and there's certain things that bother me. And the graphic violence. I mean, there was just a recent film by Lars von Trier that premiered at Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival, that I think people said it was so graphically violent and disgusting that people walked out at the film festival. Like masses of people just left, and they're like, "This is too disgusting even to stay." So this teacher.
5 now to a class lesson. Some parents.
This teacher drowns 2 raccoons in class. I mean, what the hell?
They went too far. A student says a teacher had students kill a pair of raccoons and a possum by drowning the animals.
Yeah, I didn't even know about the possum part. And, I actually probably say I like raccoons more than possums. I love wildlife photography, for those that don't know, and I like animal videos. If anybody does not like animal videos, there really is no play. I mean, I don't know who you're supposed to hang out with, because they're great. But this really bothered me.
It happened at Forest High School in Ocala. We've learned the Marion County School District and wildlife officials are now investigating. News 6's Vanessa Ariza is live outside the school tonight. And Vanessa, did the teacher do anything illegal in this?
Lisa, that's what authorities with the FWC are working to find out right now. In fact, earlier today, they had officers here at Forest High School to conduct their investigation. Now, we spoke with the mother of a student who took that video and was in class yesterday. She says, regardless of this investigation, she wants that teacher fired. Now, we do want to warn you, these images and short video that you're about to see are disturbing.
It made me sick at my stomach. It was terrible. It still does make me sick at my stomach.
Yeah, that one's like super, super small. That one probably didn't do anything.
These are the images shown to this mother of a Forest High School student yesterday. She wanted to remain anonymous, but she didn't want her story to. It was yesterday when she says her son, a freshman at Forest High, was made to stand with his fellow classmates and drown 2 raccoons and a possum.
One of the raccoons ate a chicken that they were raising. So the teacher pinned the raccoons, caught them in cages, took the cages, filled up large trash cans full of water, and had the children drown the raccoons in the cages inside the water, inside the trash cans.
Her son told her the agriculture teacher threatened anyone who recorded or took pictures of the incident would be given a referral.
He knew while it was happening that it was wrong, so he did it anyway and stood behind people hiding, taking pictures and videos.
The teacher has worked at Forest High School since 2006. As of tonight, he is on paid administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. In a statement to News 6, Marion County School Board said, quote, while law enforcement tells us the teacher may not have done anything illegal, his actions before students are certainly questionable. And I have requested that teacher's personnel file from the Marion County School Board. Now, a representative with the FWC said that once their investigation and findings are complete, they are going to turn that over to the sheriff's office as well as the state attorney's office. I was told that it's at the state attorney's office discretion whether or not they want to pursue charges against this instructor. Now, coming up within the next hour, you'll hear from one parent and a student who just heard about this today and their thoughts on all of this. Lisa?
Vanessa Ariza reporting live for us tonight. Thank you. This story continues on our website. There we posted the number.
Look at that little fucker. They're drowning in a friggin' trash can. And this guy, he's a teacher. It's like, well, first of all, the decision to do it, and then to do it at a school in front of all these kids or whatever. No, I mean, I find that, I mean, nobody, I find it really fucked up. And what really pissed me off too was that idiot Michael Medved, Mr. Neocon moron. He brings it up on his show. This is the only reason I know about it. This dumbass, Michael Medved, Mr. Morality, Mr. Nice Guy, you know. See, you know, it's doing this whole thing, striking a blow for decency. You know, on April 18th, talking about Bashar Assad and Vladimir Putin. He's complaining. He's saying, carping criticism of the Trump administration's capable handling of targeted Allied airstrikes against the Syrian dictator follows a long, sad tradition in debates on U.S. foreign policy. The Nazis were so he goes straight to the Nazis as if they're their only country to go to war, which was, I mean, they were wrong. They invaded like, what was it, like 8 or 9 different countries a year or something. While Britain was noble in opposing them, but many Americans wanted our country to take no side in the struggle. A few years later, the Soviet Union was indeed an evil empire, while NATO nations represented the best of civil. So this guy, he said on the radio, it doesn't matter. This is Mr. Morality. This is Mr. Decency. I mean, here's another article by this jackass. So far, you know, Mr. Morality. He's like, you can just see all this crap about. And, you know, I'm not saying don't try to believe in a morality, don't try to believe in a certain code of ethics. But when you're doing a moral judgment, what he said on the radio about these raccoons was that drowning is not enough. He said he hates raccoons. He says they're disgusting, they're evil creatures. He said that, and I'm not exaggerating. It was probably on Tuesday he said it. And, you know, I've been trying to find the clip, and if I find the clip, you know, you're going to be hearing more about raccoons, because if dumbass, you know, if people can talk about veganism, which I think is like one of the most ridiculous topics there is, you know, animals eat each other, so I don't care about veganism either. To talk about raccoons needing a more painful fate than drowning it's so sickened me to listen to it. It doesn't sicken me because I have a moral qualm about it. It sickens me because of the image of a raccoon drowning in a fucking trash can. I think, I don't know if you guys think the same way, it disturbs me. An animal basically watching the world disappear above him or her, you know, looking into eternity, doesn't know anything. Animals don't have a moral compass that we know of. We don't know what their souls are. We don't know their consciousness. We don't know what they think. We think, oh, this animal might be cute. You know, if, I admit it, if it was possibly, you know, an iguana or something, maybe I wouldn't have cared. Because I think raccoons are cooler animals than iguanas. Iguanas just sit there and do nothing. Raccoons do all sorts of stuff. You know, they climb around. They can sneak into shit. They can sleep. You know, there's the raccoon vending machine video. You know, awesome videos of raccoons. I mean, why would you ever want to kill something like this? I mean, it just sickens me.
Attend an unusual site in Glen Rock, Wyoming. So let's get to the video. Just take a look at this. A raccoon caught in the act of stealing some food from a vending machine at the David Johnston power plant in Glen Rock. According to witnesses, the raccoon must have been hungry. He ate the bottom 2 rows of donuts, Pop-Tarts, and candy. Luckily, no one was hurt, and workers pushed the machine outside and released the raccoon back into the wild. No word yet on which snack was his favorite.
You want to tell me you want to drown that thing? Get the fuck out of here, you idiot. You know, it got into a vending machine. I mean, who's ever wanted to, you know, you don't have enough change and you want to reach your hand under there and get the fucking, you know, I would have probably picked, of those, I probably would have picked the Almond Joy at the moment, you know, because, I don't know. I mean, there's some good ones there. I definitely don't want that Baby Ruth I see at the, you know, 4th from the left. But, you know, to say, yeah, raccoons, they need to be drowned. Yeah, there's something wrong with the guy. There's something, and you know, I was listening to him again today, and every day it's, oh, we need to be a more decent country. We need to be a more decent country. What's more decent than sneaking into a vending machine and taking some food? If you're a woodland creature, you know, that's all they know how to do. Is that a drownable offense? And he says drowning is not enough. He also mentioned, which is kind of interesting, I'll check that out. Apparently, if you see a raccoon during the day, it's probably rabid because they're nocturnal. Yeah, that's probably a problem. But I won't belabor the point. There's been all this moral grandstanding this week with the Palestinians and the Israelis or whatever. Nobody's talked about Nicaragua. I've talked enough about raccoons, but I also talk about Nicaragua, which is a lot more important, with all due respect, than raccoons. And, you know, Daniel Ortega called protesters that died. He said these were student protesters. They weren't, you know, armed militants dressed as protesters and pretending to be at a protest like happened in Gaza. These were real protesters, and Ortega called them criminals. Okay, so where's their spark of divinity? Where's their spark of divinity? So people want to grandstand and moralize about this. You know, everybody, I think, we do have almost no unity on basic morality in the United States anymore. And that's why I think the moral judgment issue, when you know, I do a story or I try to talk about it, you know, I've been trying to, you know, decide whether it's good to even pass any moral judgment. You know, during the whole Me Too thing with the presumption of innocence issue, and then there was the whole issue of, you know, what's that guy's name? Yeah, the Mattis file. By the way, Jamal Thomas, big up to him, had an interview today with the Mattis file people, the Bernie Sanders delegates, Joanne and Josephine. There's going to be more news on that possibly sometime next week. You know, no guarantees, as usual. We're at a time in this country where the actual moral foundation is so fuzzy, you know, that it's fuzzier than a raccoon's pelt. You know, it's like ridiculous. You don't know, you really have no clue what people are really thinking is the right thing to do. You have people who don't know what, you know, there's people who don't know that there's two genders, but they want you to believe in some sort of climate model that looks 10 years into the future. Meanwhile, they don't know the weather in 1 week. I mean, go figure. So that's about it for this week. I'll talk to you guys later, and I have to go. But please leave your comments, subscribe, share the video, talk about it. And I'm not kidding about the raccoon thing. It does disturb me that, first of all, the teacher drowning it in a classroom. I mean, what the hell? And then you know, that idiot Michael Medved saying, "Oh, yeah, they deserve to die." You know, I mean, who are you to judge some woodland creature that has no human consciousness? You know, if you want to say kill it, then why are you saying that drowning is not enough? That's about it, and I'll talk to you guys later.